This episode of the Focus Action Results podcast is brought to you by Accelerate Performance, creators of the Focus Action Results course and the FAR Planner. Welcome to the podcast that promises you'll be much more productive with me, your host, Ralph Barker. Welcome everybody to this episode, this very special episode of the Focus Action Results podcast, where today I am joined by Flavilla Fongang. Now, Flavilla has asked me to be a guest on her podcast earlier in the year, which I was delighted to do, Tech Brains Talk. We'll talk about that a little bit later with her in detail. And so today is the return match. I have got Flavilla, and I'm extremely excited to have her on because she is possibly one of the busiest people that I think I know. So Flavilla, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Sometimes I forget. People ask me, like, what do you do? How do you find the time to do all these things? So I'm just like, I don't know, just do it. So thank you so much for having me, Raf. I really enjoy having you. So I'm glad to be on your podcast as well.
Well, and that's brilliant. And thank you, because I know you are really busy. And that's something that we want to get into, right? This is the whole point of this podcast is about, focusing on the right things, taking action, then you get results. But actually, when I read your bio online, and I actually think, gosh, there's taking action and there's taking action, right? So let me just read what I've got from your website so that our listeners can know a little bit about you, right? So Flavilla, you are an award-winning serial entrepreneur, international multilingual keynote speaker. You've got a background in neuroscience. You're a brand expert covering strategy, design, marketing, customer experience. You founded an organization called Three Colors Rule, which is an award-winning brand and marketing agency. You've been awarded items such as the She's Mercedes Businesswoman from Mercedes-Benz, among women such as the great Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook. You've written a book, 99 Strategies to Get Customers.
Yeah.
You've created marketing approaches. You've helped numerous brands. You're a BBC brand advisor, and you're regularly talking to the BBC and helping people. You founded the Tech London Advocates, Black Women in Tech, which is the second largest organization of the TLA group. You were named last year, I believe, as one of the top 5 most influential women in tech in UK. You host a podcast, Tech Brains Talk, which we mentioned before. You are an expert in entrepreneurship, and you lecture at the Said Business School. You run branding courses for CXL. I'm starting to get exhausted here. There's just too much going on, and I just think it's amazing. And you carry on down, right? And you're an international speaker. You've spoken last year at Advertising Week, AdWorld, Moscom, CTA Conference, Martech Fest, DMWF, Orbit, and more besides. You've been invited to the Elysee Palace by Emmanuel Macron to talk about opportunities for businesses in Africa, and you're in demand from The Economist, The Guardian, The Entrepreneur, and all sorts of other places besides. I need to lie down now.
Yeah, I'm a clone, that's why.
So I've read that bio, right, which is amazing. But can you tell us a little bit about you? So who are you, and how did you get to be the Flavilla that we all know and love now? What's your journey? What's your story?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's funny because we're doing this recording and I'm back where everything started. I'm in Paris right now. So it's interesting because I left Paris 19 years ago, almost 19 years ago now. Just the idea of I didn't speak a word of English. Sometimes I feel like I don't. And I was just curious. And I think my curiosity and my desire to always challenge myself led me to who I am today. So yes, I left Paris, came to London, fell in love with the city, worked, struggled to find job because I was overly qualified. So I'm a bit of a study freak. I love to learn new things. And, finally worked in oil and gas and then worked in fashion and luxury. So by my definition, my name Flavilla is a butterfly. So I always see myself as always evolving. So I'm always in evolution. And I think that's really what defines, why I've achieved, done so many things is because and as you mentioned, you get to a point where you do something, you've achieved it, you move to the next thing, which is quite fascinating. But yeah, so my journey started as as working in oil and gas. Then I left, the company I was working for and say, I'm going to take the leap of faith and start my own consultancy. So Free Colors was actually born as a fashion and luxury consultancy first. And I quickly realized that exchanging time against money will limit my ability to really grow. So I
Mm.
transformed that knowledge into an online platform where people can learn from me, and then move from a consultancy to an agency where then recruited a team who could help me. And one thing that I've learned from my first mentor is the power of delegation. So I've always hired people on the desire to understand my vision and what I'm trying to achieve, and give them the power of autonomy, which means that the fact that I'm in Paris, my team's in London, makes no difference whatsoever. I trust them and they do a great job, and I love that. And yes, and then we were working as an agency in a number of sectors. FMCG, as I say, started in luxury, then is into FMCG, then energy, and so forth. And realized, whoa, whoa, where are we going? We're doing too many things. Let's focus. Let's be the best at doing one thing for one type of industry. And we chose technology. Luckily for us, we didn't choose
Yeah, good
hospitality.
choice.
Yeah, good choice. And the reason why I chose technology is because I could see the relevance of technology of making impact on a larger scale, and that was important for me. I'm really careful in terms of who I work with, and the desire of bringing changes, the desire of bringing convenience in the life of everyone's, of every human. And that's what was very important to me. So I have to fall in love with the brand, not just, I've never been driven by money, but if I believe in what they're trying to accomplish, it's great for me and for all the team, and to get excited about, we're not just making a logo, we're part of making history, and that's brilliant.
So,
And yeah, so yes, that's why I am right now. That's why we're here.
well, and that I just because the problem with me is I just want to interrupt because there are so many things
Please
that you're
do.
saying that are just so interesting. And one of those is you talk about um, the power of delegation.
Mm,
It's one of the things that I talk about in Accelerate Personal Performance, which is the book that I've written, and also the Focus Action Results course, which I have also crafted. Which is, if you're always required to show up and be the person that's doing the doing,
mm,
as you rightly say, you're limited in the amount that can get done because you've only got 24 hours in every day, like everybody else. Now, you
mm.
can get better at working out which things actually move the needle
Yeah,
and dropping the things that don't. But actually, you can't scale until you delegate. But being able to delegate effectively requires you, in a sense, not to be a bit of a control freak. And
mm,
I find it quite difficult because I kind of know what I want to do, how I want to do it, how it needs to move forwards. And
mm,
so I kind of think, well, I'll just do it myself. And I
mhm.
know there are a lot of people that think like that. So how do you get over the potential issue, which is you ask other people to do things and they might not quite do them the way that you want them to be
Yeah.
done or you think they should be done? You've got to have a lot of trust. How do you get there?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I love that. Remind me one day I was on social media and I saw a mug that said Beyonce has exactly the same amount of time of you, or the president has exactly the same amount of time of you, and ask yourself, what can he achieve so much more? And you're right, it's the power of delegation. But what I've done, I first, anybody who comes in, and I've always, I've always embraced diversity. So I don't hire people who think like me. I want people who are different culture, different background, and so forth. But what I do, everything that I do becomes a manual. So for example, if I ask somebody, say, so if Sophie or Zara live free colors role, I have a manual of their role. So really explain exactly how do we carry out a strategy, what's a step by step, what kind of of action is to be taken when we're onboarding a new client. That's how you let go. I think people find it really hard to let go because they hold information in their head. But if you document your way of working and leave also room for people to interpret things in their own way, and give them give them set the intention and what they need to achieve. Give them also the room for them to come up with their own ideas, but also innovate on your way of doing. That's what's super important. You document, you systemize, your process in terms of how you do things, and let also people to say, oh, you do things like that, but maybe we should do something like that instead. And that's what allowed me to do so much more, is that I let go. But let go, just say, hey, let go, do your thing by yourself and figure it out. No, 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 no. I give you enough room to say, okay, this is a manual, this is how we do things. Read it, understand it, ask me questions if you need to, and then go out there. And I think as well, the beauty of working remote, everything is, videos, not just things that you need to read. There's videos that people can watch. It's a bit like a training, as you say, you
Mm.
have training that you have, but you can do also a training of how, you operate, your business operate. And that's what gives you power, say, of knowing that I've given you exactly the methodology of my approach of how I do work, and then I let go. And that's what I've done with everything that I do, is that I create something new, I test it and see if it works. If it works, I document it. Then I can let go to somebody else do the work.
Yeah, that is key. And actually, while I say that on one hand, I kind of think, do you know what? I'm not sure I want to delegate that because I don't trust. It kind of depends what the task is, because as you'll know, I also write and record music, right? So I'm good at writing a tune, and I studied music and singing and stuff, so I know I'm good at singing. But what I'm not good at is playing the piano, or playing the guitar, or playing the drums, or actually being the arranger. And so if I were to say, well, I'm going to write a song and I'm going to do the whole thing myself, it would just be rubbish. It really would be
Yeah.
rubbish, because I'm no good at least 80% of the things that need to be done to produce it. And the brilliant thing about delegating those tasks, which are pretty specialist, is that you then get the experience and the creativity
Mm,
of other people who then kind of go, well, do you know what? We could do it a little bit like this instead. And you go,
yeah.
actually, do you know what? That's even better.
Yeah.
So you by delegating, you have to get over yourself and enable other people to do stuff. But as you say, if you do it with a blueprint, and then you're very clear about what the objectives are,
Mm,
but then you let them bring their creativity to it, it
absolutely.
uh, it makes you fly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I was in a conversation and said, you sound like a coach. I never thought about that, because I've always said to my team, you will make some mistakes. I expect you to make some mistakes. That's fine. But know that that's how you're gonna grow. Your only way to grow is to come out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
That's always been the mantra as well of one of the organizations that I run. It's like, if you always do the same thing every day, first you're going to be bored. But if I challenge you to something that you're not comfortable with, or you've never done, that's why you're going to enjoy it. And you're going to, and quite often as human, we always underestimate ourselves in terms of what we're capable of doing. And somebody say, well, you know what? Try it, see what it is. We
yeah.
have to give it a go. And then say, wow, I never thought I could do that. And I love it.
Well, and that's amazing, and you're absolutely right. What is it that I don't know? I'm going to get this quote wrong, but somebody once said people are great at overestimating what they can get done in the short term, but underestimating what they can get done in the long term.
Mm,
And I think that is so true. So I just wanted to also go back. You were talking about, you were getting very excited and very passionate as you were talking about what you do for your customers.
mm,
So if I were to ask you this question, what is your why? What's your purpose? What do you really get passionate about? What
yeah.
keeps you going?
That's such a great question. And I always advise every single brand or company that I work with to know that, because that's really what will drive you every morning. Set yourself your intention. Our intentions are very clear. We understand that there's a lot of people who have some fantastic idea, who have the power to influence and make this crazy world where we live in a better place. And we want to be part of that journey. We want to be able to, to support companies with vision to enable anybody to be great at what they do and really enjoy every moment. A lot of people are not happy, but for us is understanding that, through technology we can make an impact on a bigger scale. And it's being part of that journey and understanding that whether it's as a client who want to use technology in Africa to support small businesses, that is great. Whatever it is, in insurance company who wants to help people better manage how they live a life without worry about their goods, that's great things. That's what it's all about, understanding that when we engage with the company, they have a why that is so clear in terms of the convenience that they want to bring, and being part of that journey where we know that the ratio of failure in the tech sector is so high, being part of that journey and guiding them, for success, it's such a reward, and we see it every day. Sometimes it's a year, it's 10 years, or 5 years, or 6 months. It's great to be part of that, and that's really what, when I say to my team, you don't come to this agency to make a logo. You don't come to this thing to realize, to perform a strategy. You come here because we're trying to be part of people who are pioneers and game changers. They want to, a lot of people are numb to the situation they live in and don't realize that there can be better solution. If you think about the Uber or the Monzo or the all these brands have done some great things that we now are so accustomed to. And if it wasn't for all these great tech companies, God, how difficult would it be to navigate through this COVID world we're in right now?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, the amount of technology, the amount of other innovative things that people have had to do to just work out how to get through the last, well, nearly, 12 months, 11, 10 months, 11, but it's going to be 12 months
Mm.
by the time we start to come out of this. Um, and on that point, on the COVID point, how has it impacted your business and your ability to get things done?
Not at all.
Oh, it's amazing because I actually, and the reason I ask you is it's a plant as a question because I see you on social media, and actually I've seen posts that you've put out recently, which are 2020 was one of my best years ever, and
Yeah,
2021 is going to be even better. So
yeah,
how have you managed to do that? Because it's about having a mindset which
yeah,
says, I'm actually going to make this terrible, supposed terrible year, and of course it is terrible in terms of the impact that it's had on the world and people's jobs and people dying and loved ones and all the rest of it. So
yeah,
on that scale, yeah, it is terrible. But how are you going to take that terrible year and make it into one that's actually great for you?
yeah.
What have you done um, mentally to get there, and also practically, what have you done?
Yes, it's as you say, it's always a mindset. It's always a mindset. I try to put myself, gosh, now more than a year ago when everything started. I remember sitting with my commercial directors, like, why, COVID is like the trending word around the world. People talk about it all the time. And it's interesting when we went to the first lockdown, that whoa, okay, so now this is getting serious. And it's been interesting to just see this is where most people, when it comes to what's going on in the world, they let the world influence them instead of being in a position is how can I influence this situation in a good way. That's
Yeah.
always been my approach to life, is that I don't let the world influence me. I influence the world the best way I can. So when COVID happened, and luckily for us, I've always had this hybrid approach with my team. So you can choose to come to the office, you can choose to come whenever you want. Usually it's Monday, we are all in the office, and Fridays, so we can have lunch together. And then the other days people choose to work wherever they want, because quite often I'm in the city, so I need to be in meetings and so forth. So we're already very much hybrid. So we went from being a hybrid to being fully remote. So therefore that we have everything in place, where you think about large companies where everybody had massive, monitor. We were all on laptops, so
Mm.
that didn't affect us. And also the fact that we work in technology, our clients were not also affected by the fact that, they're doing things that are very much relevant. And actually also COVID really, forwarded digital implementation for
Yeah.
traditional businesses. So that was a good thing. But the thing that I did first is that we need to think about not only, okay, we good in terms of how we have our business, but also what can we do to also support or people who do not know how to navigate through that, because it's so easy to be stressed, by the media and the consumption of information. And I always think about, I need to bring something else different from the negativity that is given to us. And a lot of people, think about, people love to talk about the problems, and they forget to talk about the solution. And I always had this mindset: don't talk, let's not talk about a problem, let's talk about the solution. And therefore that's what we've done. And and that approach and mindset we have as a culture driven by innovation always help us to think about what do we need to do next to not only provide support a community And for that, and that's also where the podcast was reborn, and doing something around that, and being creating a community, bringing leaders together and having conversation, game changers was came together. But yeah, so 2013 has been a good years because I've not only been reactive, but I've also been proactive, where most often people are reactive to a situation, where I always try to think about how can I influence the world rather than letting the world influence me. And that's always been my approach. And I try to focus on, there's a lot of negativity, and you're right. And mindset, my mindset is important. And as a leader, I need to. I'm impacting on the rest of my team. So if I'm negative, all of them will be negative. So when they come to the morning, they're joyful, they're optimistic, and that's what I want. And they
Yeah.
focus on their own, what they can. They always focus on what they can control, and that's our approach to life. We can focus on what we can control, and we carry on this way.
Yeah, that is just such sound advice. Focus on what you can control. The other stuff just has to take care of itself.
Mm,
But, you can't take action on something that you can't actually do.
yeah.
So if achieving results is about focusing in on the right things and then taking the appropriate action, first of all, focus on the things that you can control. Focus on the things that are going to make the boat go faster. If you want to use the Team GB Olympic rowing team's mantra, right? Focus on the things that are going to make the boat go faster, and then actually take action. But you can only take action on the things you can do. So if it's outside of your control, you just need to put it to one side and know how that might impact what you're going to do, but actually make your plan, work out that it's going to be a reasonable plan. You've got the resources, you've got the time, you've got the ability to do it, and then simply go off and make it happen. I think that's just perfect advice for all of our listeners.
Yes, and I was add to say something, Raf, because for 2020 we've innovated so much in terms of things that we use, or technology that marketing technology that we use. And that's really, and I say, out of any situation like that, you are pushed to test your resilience. And that's where, a lot of great businesses will literally be born for 2020, that
Mm.
will appear. And that all happens when we get out of our comfort zone. A lot of people were just comfortable with the situation, and then COVID's like, boom, okay, you're gonna have to think differently, adapt, change, and that's what we've done. We've innovated, we added new things, new product, and so forth. And that's what really made the reason why 2020 was a good year.
Just wanted to ask you, what are your top goals for 2021 and for the quarter? And then how do you go about setting those goals
Yeah,
so that they become reality?
good question. I like that a lot. I love goals and I love achieving them. So yes, so I actually have two massive top goals for the agency. I have one top goal. Top goal is to really create a great ecosystem, a great tech ecosystem around what I do. So what I mean by that, it's funny because I always tell my clients, what is your ecosystem? Let's create an ecosystem. Let's look at what it means. But really, an ecosystem is where this, for me, the way I define an ecosystem is really an entity that keep on fueling one another and helps it nurture. So people work in synergy to help one another. So what I mean by that is that I've always had great partners who work alongside my clients, but I've never actually tapped so much into creating a community, within people, who are even my prospect or people who are my clients, to bring them together. So together they can join forces, and naturally, will also benefit the agency. And so as I always say, like, hairdresser always had bad hair, so I need to apply what I actually advise over time my clients. So creating a great ecosystem around free colors well, and what do we do within the tech sphere, and that's super important. That's really a driver, because the way I'm seeing it is, when I look at technologies, is obviously helping great technology do really well as themselves. So I tend to work with small tech companies and medium-sized tech companies, which is where we can really see the potential of them achieving great things as much as the big ones. And then alongside, you have clearly black women in tech. So I'm very much, as a black woman, I'm very pro diversity and inclusion. But a lot of people don't understand the power of diversity to increase performance. So therefore, I can influence as well my leaders to understand that. And yes, and for my partners who are part of, when you develop or grow a business, there's so much I can do as a set of skills, but there's other things that we need to develop. It's being part of bringing people who are for example, expert in performance, expert in PR, and so forth, where all together we form such a, as again, form a great ecosystem which help the success, increase the success of those tech companies. So this is what it's big and huge, but in a good way, successful. So if I had to set it in terms of KPIs, one of them is obviously having a growing, as you know, I've created a great mastermind. So I'm starting with, with that first. So the mastermind where I bring, tech leaders together and also experts, together. And then naturally, I know that behind that, will, bring some, great opportunities for free colors world agency. Attached to that as well, you have, as you mentioned, you have Chile Black Women in Tech. What we're doing here is obviously, looking at how we can support companies in a space of diversity and inclusion and understanding the importance of that. And as a Chile Black woman in tech, one of our main, that top goal is to release a book. We're releasing a book. I don't know if you heard about Hidden. Have you watched the movie Hidden Figures?
It is one of our favorite movies, actually, and because I have four daughters, and
Oh, yes.
they are all we've all seen the film many times, and
Yeah.
in fact, it's been one of the films which they've talked about at school. So Katherine Johnson, who
Mm,
you know appears in, well, is the character on which the film is based.
yeah.
She has been one of the heroes that they've talked about in their schoolwork.
I love it. I love it. But yes, you think about a movie like that, how much does it have an impact just on little girls and who've never, who've never seen themselves or never even imagined that black women could be involved in the NASA. So we are, Free Colors War is obviously, behind TLA Black Women in Tech. And I have decided to write a book that will tell the stories of black women who had an impact on technology for decades and stories that have been told. And the idea of this book is to get it distributed around schools and colleges to really, improve the representation for inspiration. So this is something that I has been close to my heart because I know how impacted me coming to London, impacted me in terms of who I am and what I've become and what I've achieved. And the idea behind that is not to just influence the generation in the workplace, but also the generation and entering the workplace and the next one. So that's one of my top goals. So everything is around, with, technology and how much I understand the importance in if technology is used in a good way, how great it can impact on the world. And yes, so this is one of the big, big goal we want to achieve. And the idea is to release this book for Black History Month in October. So yeah, so I keep my
Amazing.
goals. I don't like to set myself too many goals. That's my two top goals for this year.
Yeah.
So great ecosystem and releasing this book. That's what I want to achieve by the end of this year.
And that's amazing. And I think that the fact that you've only got a couple of them, I always say that three is the magic number, right?
Yeah.
Three should be the maximum number of goals that you set at a high level, at the top level, because, well, we humans, we work in threes. We understand, we always talk about, the top three of this and the Holy Trinity. And I mean, it's just embedded in our culture.
Mm,
Right. So having those at the top level, but of course you then need to break them down because those are high level goals. They don't actually tell you, they tell you where you're going,
mm,
but they don't tell you how you're going to get there. So
mm.
how do you then break those down
Yeah,
into the map and the bits of the journey along the way that you need to chew off as you go mile by mile towards the ultimate goal.
I love that. Yes. So let's start with the first goal, which is creating a great ecosystem. So different things that we're putting in place to make sure that we achieve that. So really, as you say, what are the things that you need to do day by day? So a lot of people think about, hey, let's think ecosystem is huge. So you can't really think about ecosystem is huge. It's about what do you need to do as well day by day. What do you need to track on a regular? So as one thing that we want to do is looking at brand awareness is obviously through Tech Brainstoke. So Tech Brainstoke is up and running, so we don't have to worry too much about that. This is part of growing an ecosystem. It's there, it's in place. The mastermind, is a natural progression to what we've done with Tech Brainstoke, and which has been great. And behind that as well has been developing, some of the tech leaders has become partners, but also external partners where we created a nice referral system in place to make sure that we not only recommend them, but they also recommend us. So that's part of
Mhm.
a great ecosystem. It's also raising my voice in terms of what I do. In, as a as you say, as a keynote speaker. My voice in work and influence as well technology. Again, around that, that's one of the things that that we're doing, and obviously the element of sales. So um, we have a great sales plan in terms of how do we go and approach and reach out to our potential customers, using as well a number of marketing tools that are fantastic and so effective as well, and as well all the work that we do around education. So we produce a number of SEO content. So we realize that we need to provide. So looking at what has been interesting, I'm telling you that because we're together. So when I launched Tech Brand Stoke, so I've instead of me creating content that I'm guessing, I've actually used the content provided by my guests in terms of brand challenges to create that content, which helped us drive our SEO strategy so people can find us and find our website. So really the things that we do is like, what do we do to drive brand awareness for our direct activities? And what do we do to drive a brand awareness for our partners and for example, for our ecosystem? And one of them is the things that we do as I do as of my own brand, what are the things that we do as an agency, and what are the things that we do as well as for our partners and as our leaders that we're creating as a community. So these are the three key areas: direct brand awareness, for myself and the agency, then the partners and the ecosystem as well, and then letting as well, the activities around the press and all of that work alongside, and that really works.
Yeah,
That really
that's great.
works.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do, as you say, loads of things along the way.
Yeah.
How do you, presumably you have a system, you must do
Yes,
because you do
of
so
course.
many things.
Yes.
Do you have a system for working out how to keep yourself honest and keep yourself on track?
Yeah. So we do. First of all, so we set a 90-day plan in
Uh,
terms of what we need to achieve, and when we break it down in terms of what needs to be done day by day. So some things have been done by me, and other things have been done by my team. And again, before giving them those tasks, I give them the bigger picture, so everybody understand why are we doing this. So you're not here just to do some SEO or get me another podcast. Is why are we doing this first? So we always go by quarterly, so 90-day plan, and then week by week, what do we need to achieve week by week. So for example, in my case, maybe set some goals of I need to be make sure that I'm on doing at least 2 or 3 interviews per month. Yes, so getting some exposure out there. And then how many prospects do we need to outreach? So we need to for example, for cold calling emails, we need to at least have 1,000 send out. Yes, and we know because we know that by the number, if we send 1,000, probably get about 3 or 5 or 5 prospects from that angle. And then for the SEO activities, how many articles need to be published per week, 1 article per week, and what does it bring and how do we monitor that? So really, you can really break it down in terms of even something like the podcast, one episode is being released every week. So
yeah,
every week, if something that comes out, and again, something some are great at promoting. So again, something like the podcast is generating new clients because we again utilizing the power of their own reach to get to us, which is super effective. And then we
yeah,
test, we're always testing one new approach. If it doesn't work, we skip it, we move it out, and then the one that works, we keep them doing until we know it works. We keep them doing. So that's really how it works. So everybody has their own set of goals. So we use again something like great technology tools in project management tool. And people know Asana, but we use MeisterTask, which is great in terms
yeah,
of who needs to do what at what time. And then at the beginning of each week, we set our attention where we need to achieve it, and at the end of the week again we review it. So Friday is a great day, so I never set meetings on Friday because that's the time where I spend time with my team and embrace the small wins. So important.
mhm,
Like people always think about the big things, like even if they haven't necessarily achieved their goals, what have you learned? It's always my push, like what have you learned this week so we can do better next week. And that's as important as part of the win. Is that what have you learned? If you're able to identify what you've learned as for that process, that is still a win. And that's what I want them to embrace, and they can see what they need to do next week to perform better. But yeah, so they're brilliant.
brilliant.
They're brilliant.
Yeah, and you've just mentioned something there that actually I wanted to touch on, which which is you said you celebrate the wins, and I want to just delve into that because I don't, there are goal setters and there are goal setters, right? I'm one of these people. I don't know, it's probably a personality thing, but if I achieve something I set out to achieve, the moment I've achieved it, I kind of go, well, there's nothing to celebrate there because I just said that I needed to achieve that. I've done what I said I needed to do. Right now, move on, get on to the next thing. And I tend to be a little bit just matter of fact, and I just move from one thing to another. Um, and one thing I've been trying to do, I'm not brilliant at it, but trying to do, is actually to deliberately celebrate those wins.
Mhm.
Not only just for myself, but also because invariably, if I achieve something, it's not because I did all of it, it's because other people helped me, even if it's support from family or advice that came from a mentor. Actually, a lot of people have contributed to it. So it's not really right for me to say, well, look, I just achieved that, so I don't need to celebrate that. I just expected myself to achieve it, and now I'll move on to the next thing. Actually, there is some celebration that needs to take place. I'm just not very good at it, and I'm trying to get better. This is my therapy session. You could be my therapist now. Uh, so so other people are better at it, and they kind of like, do you know what? I've achieved that. May not be big, but I'm going to celebrate that because that's moving me towards my goals.
Yeah.
And where do you sit on that? And what do you do? Do you celebrate at all, or do you just kind of go, right, we've done it, move on?
Oh yeah, I definitely celebrate, and I'm a bit of you, but I've nurtured the importance of gratitude. So, for example,
Yeah.
things that I do in the morning when I wake up, first thing, it's my first word is thank you. So, thank you for another day, thank you for what I'm going through, and that's super important. And then I take my book, my journal, and I write down 10 things that I'm grateful for, whatever it's
Hmm.
personal, whatever it is business, and that's really it's important. And then after that, I follow with some affirmation in terms of how do I want I want to feel, it's like, my mom always told me that I'm lucky. And therefore I always believe I'm lucky. And it's true. So many things I think about. I almost died 5 times, so I'm definitely lucky. So yes, so that's super important to do that, just to be able to embrace, especially, as leaders and entrepreneurs, it's hard sometimes, you wake up sometimes, you're like, why am I doing that? And you have to appreciate so much your small wins. But I make a habit of saying 10 things that you are grateful for today. I say my team, whatever it is, ability to work in Paris where, COVID allowed me to do that right now, or this and this, that, what I've achieved. I've spoken to this amount of people who had great conversation, great insight, and so forth. And then after that, setting, affirmation is if you take the habit of doing that from the beginning, you set your day to be feeling fulfilled. And it's so people really underestimate the importance of mindset and how so it impacts on our creativity. When I do that, quite often in the morning where, before I get disturbed by the craziness of the world, I just flow through my mind and so forth, which is so important. So yes, doing that, those 10 gratitude, moment, 10 gratitude exercise that I do every day, it's so key. And then it keeps me energized and appreciate every situation. But as I'm doing it for myself, and I know that, it's hard, also for them to, my team to realize that sometimes they're doing something great. So I have to remind them, this is really good that you've done that. And that's important as well, keeping them, when you're working, every all of us isolated in our own environment, knowing that no matter how far you are, I always appreciate you, and I want them to remember that, and that's super super key. And that's how you create a great culture, not only for yourself but also for your team. So you are, as leaders create leaders. So who you are and how you present yourself will impact on how they become as well for other people.
That's great advice. Do you know what? I'm going to take that on board.
Yeah.
I think I'm the same. Gratitude is a great word, underrated, but absolutely necessary because there are so many people that help you along on the journey that you're on.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I wanted to turn something around here and say, look, you're an amazingly successful entrepreneur, person, in so many different ways, as we found out as I exhausted myself reading um, biography with everything that you've done. So one could feel that, oh, everything you touch turns to gold. But we know that for every success any of us has, there are loads of failures along the way, right?
Mm.
That's just the nature of it.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you here. I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your biggest goal-getting mistake that you ever made, and what did you learn from it?
Oh my God, that's a good question. I think my biggest goal setting mistake was trying to be everything. And I think I, lost myself along the way. And, sometimes the biggest mistake that we make is to be, saying yes to everything.
Mhm.
And this is quite damaging. And the power is in saying no, and saying that this is all I'm good at, this is what I can do, and that's it. And I've seen it before, like, agencies who say, we do this, we do that, we do that, and then you become an average. You don't
Mhm.
become the best. I think that's probably the mistake I've done in the past, thing like, oh yeah, I can do PR. Well, do you have any PR database? No. Okay, so you can't do it. So saying no, we can't do that, and saying yes to everything was the biggest mistake that we made. And sometimes when you're too greedy and think about, oh, that will give me an extra 5 grand or whatever it is, it's a mistake, because in the long run it will damage your non your brand, and we realize that very quickly. So yes, so saying not being a jack of all trade, and sticking to what you're really good at and doing nothing else, that's how you get recognized. And from the moment I've done that, that's how I became recognized in the field, and that's why I became a marketing leader and influencer, or somebody in the voice of of technology. But I think a lot of people are scared of being niche and choosing, I'm going to be good at this, you know.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, like, when people exercise, when you go to the gym, people say, "What do you do?" First time when first time I went to, just like, "What do you do?" There's like everything. What are you asking me this question? Say, okay. When people go to the gym, say, "Oh, I'm doing upper body, or I'm doing this." So when you focus on one part of your body, that's how you become a master of improving of that art, and that's so key. But if you try to do everything, you never achieve anything. You just spread yourself thin, and you end up just being average.
Yeah, that is such good insight. This podcast is called Focus Action Results, right? And what you're talking about there is focus.
Mm,
Get really focused on the thing that you want to be. And we talked before about finding your why, finding your purpose, and linking that to what you want to be, and then being relentless and focus on the things that are going to move the needle, because you can take loads of action around a lot of stuff, and you're just not focused on any of it. And
mm,
actually what that makes you is, what's that phrase? You're a busy fool, right? You're really busy. You're actually being really productive.
mm,
You're just producing stuff that doesn't actually get you to where you need it to be.
mm,
Uh, and that's where a lot of people make a mistake, and they kind of go, oh, do you know what? I want to learn how to be more productive. I want, get me a productivity course. And I go, well, productivity is only one bit, because you can be really productive at producing really mediocre stuff. You can be really productive producing stuff that just doesn't help. You can be really productive producing more work for yourself. Um, Whereas what you want to do is focus on the things that are going to be really important, then be productive around that. And if you are then productive around that, of course, you get the results that you want, which
yeah.
is the key thing. So, final question for you:
Mm-hmm.
if you could give pearls of wisdom to our listeners, um, three, because we like threes, all right? The three is the magic number, right? If you had three tips or three pieces of advice that you could give to the goal setters and the goal getters out there, that you've learned, you've experienced, things that really work, what three things would you say to our listeners?
Right. I could say so many things, but I only have to say three. Okay.
You've
So
got to focus.
I select everything that you do has to be aligned with your intention. If it doesn't serve your purpose and what you want to do. What I mean by that, so don't say yes to everything that's put in front of you. So does it align with who you are and what you want to achieve? Then say yes. If it doesn't, say no. So a lot of, for example, people come to me and say, hey, can you do this for us? No. Simple as this. Or can you Flavilla, can you do so? For example, it happened, like, big corporations say, hey, can you come and be on a panel? No, I don't want to. First, because you don't want to pay me, so no. And then after that, obviously I didn't say it in such a way, I say it politely, but then they offered me a paid opportunity. So yes, which was great, and it also aligned with what I wanted to be known for. So sometimes saying no will get you closer to what you want to achieve. And that's, there's a power in saying that. I would say my second advice is let go. Let let the go. Let go. If you don't let go, you will never grow. Oh, it just rhymes as well. If you don't let go, if you don't let anybody else take over some of your duties where you can focus on your bigger vision, then you'll be stuck. And I've seen people like 20 years doing the same thing because they never allow themselves to believe that nobody can do better than me. Well, it's true, you are the only person who can do things your own way, but doesn't mean that somebody cannot come and bring something and another spice, another way of doing things. So that's I say. So learn to say no to bring you closer to what you want to achieve. Let
Mhm.
go. And my last piece of advice, I would say, be a constant learner. I learn every day. Like there's so much. Now I'm learning about negotiating skills, which I find is so fascinating. I love this audio. So be a constant learner. If when you stop growing and learning new things, that's when you stop evolving, and that's how you keep cultivating a creative mind. So learn to say no, let go, and learn every day. Learn something new on a regular basis. So always you can say things like, what have you learned today? What it is through an experience or what it is through a piece of advice. So doing this with you is fantastic. And, you learn a lot of things. And so yeah, and I hope people who listen to this podcast will also enjoy it.
Brilliant. Those are amazing pieces of advice. Thank you, Flavilla. And thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest on the Focus Action Results podcast. We're recording this on a Friday morning, the day that you normally don't do anything extra other than just focus. So I really appreciate that you've taken the time to do this, so that you can bring some of your insight, your knowledge, your experience to our listeners about how they can focus, and if they do, and then they take action or along the right lines of that focus, so they can get the results that they want to. They can achieve the goals that they set themselves. So thank you so much for being a guest, and I look forward to speaking to you the next time that we speak on either my podcast or your podcast or on a mastermind or something, because it's always enlightening. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
I hope that was helpful for you today and you enjoyed listening to the Focus Action Results podcast. If it was either helpful or enjoyable, or heaven forbid both, please subscribe, leave feedback, share with friends and family, and tweet it loud with the hashtag Focus Action Results podcast.